testimony and submitted it to the committee this past year that was both poignant and powerful. And when I read it a couple of times, it made me think about the strength of the alliance that this person has shown to the LGBT community. And the more I thought about it, I shouldn't have been surprised. Auditor Bump has been fighting for our community as an auditor, but even when she was in the legislature some years ago. And it is my honor to welcome to the podium Auditor Suzanne Bump.
And indeed, gratitude on your faces. Many years ago, I was a legislator in the House of Representatives. This event today replaces a pretty bad old memory that I have from another effort many years ago. Because many years ago, we had a debate on the floor of the House of Representatives about whether gay persons would be allowed to be foster parents. I left the House chamber that day in tears, and it's so wonderful now to have such a joyous event and this wonderful visit, this set of visitors to replace that pretty dark memory that I had. So I am really honored to be part of this, to have walked with you, beside you, fought with you for so many years. I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled for all of the progress that we've made. Thank you very much.
As a member of the House, I can tell you that nothing gets done without leadership from the Speaker's office. And in 2009, February 2009, at the Mass Equality Gala, Bob DeLeo showed up and he said to the entire audience, "I'm proud that as Speaker, this is my first public event. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of the Transgender Equal Rights Bill, and I'm committed to getting this bill passed." Speaker DeLeo, through his leadership, his courage, and his tenacity, delivered for us today. Please join me in welcoming Speaker DeLeo.
Very much, Cal, for that very kind introduction. And as I was walking over here today, I was thinking of the same thing. It was my very first event as Speaker of the House, and I went to the Mass Equality dinner, and I had made a statement that we were going to get this done. First of all, it took me a little bit longer than I thought I was going to be. But bottom line, we got it done. Representatives behind me. This legislation had some great, obviously, and wide support. I'd particularly like to mention Representatives Trentino and Representative, I should say, Majority Whip now, Byron Rushing, for their efforts in making sure that we got this done. The number of meetings at my office with Liz, David, and others, I really have to thank them. And also to tell them that they cannot ask me for any piece of legislation. From now until the time I leave, which, by the way, isn't soon. I want to make that clear. All of you as supporters have worked on this for years to provide the critical civil rights protection to transgender people, allowing them to more easily find employment, housing, education, credit, and most importantly, a better quality of life. Of course, I have a great deal of gratitude and thanks to the Senate President, the members of the Senate as well, and obviously our great governor who was mentioned earlier. They also were a major part of this great legislation. In signing this bill, the Commonwealth is recognizing the unjust discrimination that nearly 33,000 Massachusetts residents face each day. Henceforth, we as a Commonwealth will not have to tolerate hatred. Massachusetts will no longer have to tolerate discrimination. Massachusetts will not have to tolerate bias-related violence towards transgender people. This, I am so proud to be part of, is such an important civil rights milestone. And the signing of this bill demonstrates that protecting the safety and the well-being of each member of the Commonwealth remains a priority up here on Beacon Hill. Most important folks I want to thank and congratulate are you, are all of you folks. Because of your advocacy, because of your strong will, because of your loyalty to the issue, you made this a very special day on the signing of this landmark legislation. Thank you for letting me be a part of that.
As I mentioned, when we started working on this in 2007, there were only a small handful of us in the legislature that started out the process. And one of my colleagues that stepped right up when we asked him, some people said maybe he was an unusual suspect. But Senator Downing has been there since day one fighting with us. And before I turn it over to him, I want to give a shout out to his staff, Elizabeth Mahoney. Where's Elizabeth? Deserves to be singled out. She exemplifies what it means to be a public employee in the State House. She has spent more quality hours, some of them very challenging hours, with our coalition since day one and has been fighting with us. We get all the glory and the attention for whatever glory this may be, but our staff are really the brains and the brawn behind the operation, and I want to thank you, Elizabeth, for being part of that with us. She makes look good and be good every single day. Senator Downing.
I guess I should thank them. I gotta make a list. I gotta go talk to the Senate President about whatever I'm paying Elizabeth. But Carl's right. The staff from everyone's office has done such a good job on this, and I think they all deserve a round of applause because story about two conversations that I had around this legislation in my district. I was at a community coalition meeting in North Adams in early 2007, and a member of the community coalition in North Adams grabbed me and said, I know it's co-sponsorship and sponsorship time. I want to talk to you about an act that would include transgender individuals in the Commonwealth under our hate crimes laws and our anti-discrimination laws. And I said, sure, let's set up the time to talk. We'll get a cup of coffee. And we had a group of about 10 or 15 people sit down and talk about the legislation. And that's when I decided to, at that time, be a co-sponsor and begin to work on the legislation. I share that story not for any special reason, but to remind each and every one of you in the room here today, you are powerful. Too often, people believe that they have no power when it comes to their government. The government is something distant, something separate, something far away. You are powerful, and because of the efforts of each and every one of you, we are here today, and I know that everyone up here could share a story like that. So remember that. The second story I will share was in downtown Pittsfield, the city where I grew up, where I live right now, and where my office is. I was walking down North Street in downtown Pittsfield, and I had someone grab me and say, Ben, you know, I've heard these things about this bill. It doesn't seem like it's something you would support. And not surprisingly, as many of you in this room would know, it was some of the misinformation that was spread about this bill. And I said, well, let's go get a cup of coffee, because apparently coffee solves all the world's problems. And so we said to this individual, well, don't you think that it's wrong that individuals in this Commonwealth, thousands of individuals, experience more criminal acts because of who they are? Don't you think it's wrong that they're denied jobs because of who they are? Don't you think it's wrong that they're denied access to housing or credit because of who they are? And at the end of that cup of coffee, he said, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's worth remembering, because sometimes we remember the fights. We remember where we disagree. We don't often remember that the values that we're fighting for, the principles that we're fighting for, are things that unite us. And when we remember those things, we end up with celebrations like we are having here today. And let me point out, being the first member of the Senate to speak here today, I think the governor's office is a great place for ceremony. I think the House is a great place for history. But I think when it comes to celebrations, the Senate is the place